Hey everyone, this is Mr.Dencehead of Mr.Dencehead Flight Reviews, and today we're going to be reviewing the Fortis Airframes Titan Tricopter. This is what it looks like all folded up, and you simply just take out the arms, snap on the rubber bands, and you're good. Now, I was very hesitant on buying this airframe because of the rubber bands. I just didn't want another thing to forget at the airfield or replace every so often. But it hasn't been an issue, and they seem like they are very good rubber bands. I have crashed it a few times, and they don't like fly off when you crash. I am flying it off of the KK2 board with the Sunny Sky motors. This tricopter with the KK2 unflashed, I have not flashed it yet, is insanely stable. Sorry about this. I have flown a FPV a couple times. I did have to balance the props. They're just cheap Hobby King props. And if you do fly it non-FPV setup with FPV, you have to have it counterweight where the camera would go, or else it's very unstable. It takes off at about half throttle. There is some gusting wind today, but as you can see, it is insanely stable. With that battery, I am getting about 15 minutes of flight time, just hovering it and gently flying it around. It flies really well. It's set up to David Windestall's specs. He has a great YouTube video on how to set up the KK board. And I'll go and fly FPV for you guys. So this is a closer look of how I mounted the ESCs and how I routed the wires. Now this does take some forethought into how you're going to route the wires. Back here is pretty simple. I just ran it along the boom and tucked it in pretty neatly. And along with the video transmitter, I just ran it along through some wire mesh. And that was all fine. Should probably clean these up a little bit, but it's not necessary. But what I found was with these wires coming from the ESC to go to the KK2 and the power distribution, is that I originally had them mounted on the back, and when they would fold, or when the arms would fold, when the arms folded like that, these wires would get caught in between there, and you had yourself a wire cutter. And I actually had to replace some of the wires because that was a problem. and they were sticking out through the sides and everything. So what I did is inside this board, this frame, there's not a whole lot of room to mount your wires. So I just ran them inside and up through a little hole in the frame that was already there into the KK2, and that cleaned it up a lot better. And I just mounted these from the KK2 to the receiver, and I was having problems mounting the receiver antenna. So I just took a zip tie end, and I drilled a hole through the electronics cover, and it lined up perfectly with a natural hole through the KK2 board. Stuck that in there and electrical taped it together, and that way, if you do crash it, it can bend. Longest time, like a couple flights, I was flying without the ballast here up front because I wasn't flying at FPV. I was just flying at line of sight. And so what I found out is that I built this thing for FPV, so it has a lot of weight back here via video transmitter because I wanted it away from the antenna. So I found that the Park Zone 1300 milliamp from the Hobby Zone Super Cub weighed almost exactly the same as a GoPro, and it's about the same dimension as it. So I just slid that in there and it flew fine. Overall, I really like this frame. It's incredibly tough, it's really light, and it went together really easy. The only bad thing that I have to say about it is the room inside that they give you for mounting the wires, and that when it comes, it has blue CNC protection on it for when they cut it out. It's not a big deal, but I probably spent about 45 minutes peeling off all the blue tape, and it doesn't take away from the frame at all, but it was just kind of a pain in the ass to do. The Sunny Sky motors I highly recommend. They're ultra smooth, and they're really responsive. I just have generic Hobby King 30 amp ESCs, and another thing that you will see is that when I take the battery off, I had to put Velcro because I was originally going to route it inside, but because I have a light battery, a Nanotech or whatever it is, I had to have it on the outside because it was too wide and it'd rub up against the wires. So I had to take Velcro, and I just Velcroed, hot glued pieces of Velcro to the battery tray and the battery itself, then a final piece of Velcro, and that's working great. Now, when I was buying this kit from Fortis Airframes, this is what it looks like all folded up. I noticed that they're selling hooks to hang them on your wall for like $30, and I was looking at it, and all it really is just hooks that slide and hold it in place using the extra amount of arm from the frame. And I figured out that 2 nails would do exactly the same thing, spaced and even. So now, all you have to do is you just slide it like that. It's not fitting because I have the battery on still. But it just sits exactly like that. And, what, like 10 cents for the nails? And you have the exact same product for a much cheaper price. So, and this would work with a lot of different other tricopters as well. So it's just something to think of when you are getting. Thank you for watching this review. Please tell your friends and tell me what you'd like to review next. Thanks.